Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. Our guest tonight is Laurie Evans Taylor, writer and director of the brand new movie now streaming on Tubi, Bed Rest. Laurie, thank you so much for being our guest tonight. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this.
I'm excited as well. And like we talked about briefly before we went live, I told you how much I love this movie. And to the our audience out there, this movie, like we said, it's on Tubi. It's free. Tubi's free. I mean, the ads are not long, but this movie is so worth the watch. It's free. It's amazing. You're going to love this movie, especially if you're like me and you love the paranormal subgenre. So, with that said, let's get started. I was looking over your resume, and this is your first, not feature film, this is your directorial debut. Okay? You have a ton of work in television, producing, writing. What made you make the jump to not only a feature film, writing it, producing it, and directing it? Tell us how that evolved.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've had this real journeywoman's career, honestly. I started my career in the theater. That's something that I always loved. And I directed theater. So I've directed before. Um, yeah, I had worked in television before, but then with this, I actually had the idea for Bed Rest as a writer about a decade ago.
Wow.
I mean, this has been a project that is a long time coming for me. And I had the idea for it. And then in 2015, I wrote it and it went out as a spec. And it was really, the town really responded to it. And it was a preemptive deal at a major studio, and it was very exciting. I thought it was going to get made then, and unfortunately, it got caught in development, as things do. It all
Yeah.
happens all the time for all sorts of reasons. And then when it came out of the rights, I ended up getting the rights back some years later. And at that point, I had been working as a screenwriter ever since Bed Rest.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really sort of got me on the list of a lot of people. And so I was making a very good living. Um, but Bed Rest was something that was very personal to me. And I really wanted to get it made. And I wanted to have agency in the process.
Hmm.
And at that point, I thought, you know what? I want to try to direct this because I knew I wanted to direct a feature at some point because I had come from theater and I had directed that. And I love working with actors and I love the horror genre. And then I just said, you know what? I got to do this. I got to bet on myself and see if I can get this made. And luckily, the Bed Rest, the script had a really good reputation in town.
Yeah.
So,
It's an
uh,
amazing film.
thank you, thank you. And yeah, I was very lucky because Project X came on board, and those guys, William Sherrick and Jamie Vanderbilt and Paul Neinstein, I've known them for a while now, both professionally and personally. And they had just started Project X and were looking for projects, and they loved Bed Rest and they knew me, and we started talking, and they just really championed me
Awesome.
as a director. And so I really owe them a lot because they gave me a shot.
That is such a great story. So, the night before preparation begins to direct this film, here you are, you're directing your first motion picture. What is your biggest fear?
Gosh, my biggest fear was, oh my God, you put yourself out there, especially when was so personal to me. You get something out there and you just hope people will respond to
Yeah.
it. Everybody has an
Hmm.
opinion these days, right? And that was the biggest worry of like, oh my gosh, what if I fail? What if I fall
Exactly.
flat on my face? All of those things. But I just really trusted my amazing team behind me, STX, who gave me support, Melissa Barrera,
Oh, yeah.
who just gives an amazing performance. And I just had to trust myself that I had to trust myself that I had the skills. that I've learned through all these years. It's like I have a toolbox of skills with my eclectic career.
Yeah.
And in the past couple of years, before I had got it made, I really threw myself into learning all the things that I didn't know in filmmaking and really talking to a lot of directors and um, artists like DPs and people in sound design and visual effects artists. So I really tried to get into sponge mode and soak it all up and learn as much as I could so I could be as prepared when I finally got the shot.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned Melissa Barrera. She gives an amazing performance as Julie in the movie. In fact, the whole movie hinges on her performance, and she pulls it off flawlessly. Now, she's also producer in the film.
Mhm.
So, star and producer, not that, rare. How did that work out? Was she a producer first? Was she part of the team and then got cast, or vice versa?
Well, it actually started more as an actress, but it was pretty close. So how that worked out, we were looking for an actress for the role, and it is a really demanding role, both physically and emotionally. And there's the horror aspects, but there's also the vulnerability, and this character is going through so much grief, and self doubt, and the Project X, they were producing Scream at the time.
Ah,
And
yeah.
so they were on set with Melissa and seeing the work that she was doing, and they just loved her. And so they called me and said, "Hey, we have a Melissa Barrera here. She's really good, and you should check her out." And so I got familiar with Vita, and I thought she was fantastic. And so we slipped her the script, and she loved it. And she just really got it. So we got on a Zoom, she and I started talking, and she just really understood the character and was really willing to go to these really tough emotional
Yeah.
places. And we started talking about the script, and she has really good instincts. She's a really smart actress, and she had good instincts about the character, and the relationship between her and Daniel. And so we would talk, and some of the stuff that I would start to incorporate into the script to really kind of tailor it for her.
Yeah.
And so her creative input, that really sort of led to her being a producer on it. And honestly, I have to say, it was great having her on set as a producer too, because she really set this great tone as
Yeah.
being, the number one on the call sheet, but really coming in game and talking with the crew members and having a good time. And it really helps set this fun, casual family atmosphere
And that is
on the
so
set.
important because
Right.
it is so important because it does show itself in the final product when everything is said and done. Now, when writing the story, you did some clever writing in that the spirit antagonist, let's call it, is not really revealed to us until the third act of the film. Uh, was it from the beginning? That's how you decided the trajectory of of the script and the movie. That's how you wanted it to go.
Yeah, it was an involving process. I I ended so I originally was bringing the protagonist in earlier. But the thing about a movie like this is, even if she's on bed rest and she has to stay in the house, if something is going to scare her that badly, she's going to leave. She's going to get
Yeah.
out and go to a hotel. So that's when I started to play with the other device of holding that
Hmm.
character off and bringing in the younger character who, not I don't want to give too much away,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
has an emotional attachment to. So she doesn't want to leave. She wants to engage, and so that definitely evolved in the writing process of how to sort of play with the psychological of what is really going on.
Exactly.
Is it real? Is it in her head? What is she seeing? And so that was fun because I love Hitchcock movies too, and I love ghost stories. And so that was a lot of fun just to play in that space as a writer.
That's a great comparison with Hitchcock. You combine pregnancy, let's see, pregnancy, previous tragic loss, mental illness, a new house, new town, new job for the husband, all in one story. Were all those life stressors important in telling Julie's story?
Absolutely. Well, there's certainly the backstory and what she's been through that informs the entire movie.
Yeah.
And really, because this movie is really about grief, it's about mental health and working through that and trying to get to the other side. So that was always the through line of the emotional story. But yes, I wanted to start it on a bright note, right? This is a new start for her and her husband. It's a new house. They're
Yeah.
pregnant again. And so we meet this couple that we like and we're rooting for and seem to be in a really good place in their life. But then we start to pull back the layers of this onion to and find out what happened before, and we keep pulling back more and more layers and more about what she experienced in her mental health issues. And now we're, as an audience, ideally we're thinking, oh my gosh, are we dealing with an unreliable narrator? So you don't know what, can you believe her, what
Yeah.
she sees or not? It's really fun.
You bring
Fun to play.
attention to postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, which is just a topic in entertainment that is mentioned and then move along, okay? You bring real light to some very serious issues in this film. Was that important for you to highlight?
Absolutely. It was paramount, that the emotion of it and paying service to that was really my North Star. Um, and there were things in my own personal life that I had gone through that I certainly wanted to bring in and give time and space to really explore it. Because a lot of times with movies, it's just a setup
Yeah.
or you get a little bit of it. And for me, that was really the part of the journey is what Julie was going through and really giving it the time and space to really explore it.
I mean, you've been writing for a long time. Now that this movie is done and you've seen it and you know what the end product looks like, do you look back when you were writing this script? You have written for so many television shows and say, "Wow, when I have personal experience in something, and my heart is in this script." Do you see a difference in your own work when it comes from the heart like that?
Well, it's interesting because there's a fine balance between that because I think when anything there's anytime something is personal,
Mhm.
right? You invest more in it, but at the same time, if you do it too much, I think it can cloud judgment. So I think there's a real fine line. I like to stay really objective with my scripts as much as I can.
Yeah,
And even in this, there are definitely parts of what I had been through as a mother. But I wanted to make sure I was always concentrating on the story and
yeah.
telling this story because otherwise you get a little clouded and
Sort of go
um,
off the road a little bit. Yeah, I totally
yeah.
get it. Now, given Julie's history, okay, and all that she's been through, when it comes to her husband Daniel, who's played by Guy Burnett, he did a great job as well. Do you
Right.
agree with me that no matter what she told him, which is the truth, there was nothing short of him seeing it for himself that would make him believe her, given her recent history?
History.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the thing, I think if we were all in Daniel's position,
yeah,
we would think,
yeah.
oh God, my wife is losing it again, right?
I
So,
found myself putting myself in his position, and even though I'm a believer, I like to consider myself an open-minded person. You got to look at the history before you look at the paranormal.
absolutely, right? That's the first thing. There's a person with a track record of some mental health
Hmm.
issues and so and, uh, he experienced this loss too, and his whole they grieve differently. Everybody grieves in a very different way. And
Absolutely,
for
yeah.
Daniel, he was really trying to take care of his wife, by moving forward, by getting this new job, and now they have this new house, and trying to just move forward in this positive way. It's like that's the way forward,
Yeah,
right? That's the way that we have what we want, and don't look back in the past. And then so as she's starting to experience these things again, it's, oh shit,
exactly.
uh, we're going back to the past again. And of course he's not going to believe her because of all everything that happened. But you can understand where he's coming from. It's not that he's being a mean husband and just
No.
not choosing to believe his wife. It plays in that murky area of,
And
yeah,
Daniel, throughout the
right.
movie, he could have gone to being a not so loving husband and gone the other direction. I'm glad you kept him on the track that you did. I think it worked better for the story. Now, without revealing any spoilers, the ending could have gone either way, and you know what I'm talking about, all right? Now, did you shoot an alternate ending just in case things went differently in post production, or that one ending that the viewers are going to see is the one ending that you were positive about and went with?
We shot two. We shot one that was a little bit more ambiguous.
Okay.
And most we showed it to some people just to kind of get their
Yeah,
feelings of like, which way would you want to go, and everybody wanted this way
me too.
because of the emotion
Yeah.
of it. And I think you're so invested in this character because everything is from her point of view. We are
Hmm.
with her the entire time. We're not with anybody down the hall. It's always with her in her bed. And so at that point you're just really, ideally you're rooting for her.
Hmm.
And that's what we felt, is that we wanted a certain ending a certain way because
Exactly.
it's more satisfying.
And we don't know, as I was watching it, I didn't know which way you were going to go up until it happened. So kudos to you on that. Thank you so much, Lori. We're out of time. Again, guys, the movie is called Bed Rest. It is streaming right now on Tubi for free. Check it out. It was written, directed, produced by our guest Lori Evans Taylor. It's an amazing film. Great story. It will keep you on your toes. Before we go, Lori, going back to your resume, is it true that you are one of the writers for Final Destination 6?
Yes, I'm co-writing FD6 with Guy Busick, who's also on Scream and did Ready or Not. And yeah,
Oh,
so
cool. I know it's still in pre production, so you can't say much, but we're very excited about that. That's a very popular franchise, as you know. Again, thank you to Laurie Evans Taylor. I want to thank our audience, those of you who are tuning in live, and those of you who'll be watching later on. Thank you. Do you have any final thoughts, Laurie, before we go?
no, I just thank you for having me on, and I hope everybody goes and checks it out on Tubi and enjoys it.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. On behalf of Laurie and myself, stay safe, stay walking. Good night, everybody.